Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here with Supersize Your Business. Have you ever felt like you were caught in a web, like a spider web or a circle of events that you just couldn't find a way to break out of? Today, our idiom, our expression is a vicious cycle, also known as a vicious circle. And we're going to talk about 10 ways to break out of a vicious cycle, a cycle of events that just feels like it's sucking you into the vortex and you're never going to get out. Have you ever had the experience where it feels like deja vu, like you're living the same relationship, the same business situation, the same circumstances over and over and over again? The idea of a vicious cycle, it's been around since the 18th century, and it first appeared and was documented in Henry James's notebook in 1892. And it means, of course, it originally meant like a circular argument where the argument that assumes the conclusion is based on one of the premises of the argument in the first place. So the solution to one problem often gives rise to another problem. And sometimes the solution to the second problem actually creates the first problem again. I think of these can be big or small problems. They can be relationship problems, relationship situations, people that find themselves always going back to the same type of relationship. They're in a bad relationship, they get out of it, they jump right into another bad relationship. Family behavior tends to run in cycles. You know, that we tend to be in the same profession as our parents were. We tend to have the same type of relationships that our parents did. Unless we do something to break that cycle. Poverty, low income tends to be a cycle that's really, really hard for people to break out of. Illness and ill health, illiteracy are two more examples of things that are hard to break out of. I think of a spider web whenever I think of a vicious circle or a vicious cycle. Actually, vicious circle is 40% more popular than vicious cycle, so the two are used interchangeably. But I always think of a spider web when I think of a vicious cycle, because it's circular and it goes around and around and around, and there's webbing, and it's like a maze. It feels like something that you can't get out of. So what are some ways to get out of a vicious cycle? Of course, a vicious cycle assumes negative and bad, like a downward spiral, and then the opposite of that is a virtuous cycle, where it's an upward spiral. We can take our vicious cycles and flip them around and turn them into virtuous cycles. We can take something that was a negative in our life and we can create a habit that creates and automatically is an upward spiral of a good habit. Think of, I replaced diet soda with water. Diet soda was really bad for me and I had my health going in a downward spiral. Water is much better for me and every other human being on the planet, and that put me in a health upward spiral. So that's a little example, but it doesn't get into anybody's vices. You know, you could think of replacing drugs with exercise, or alcohol with pop or water, or whatever you would use to balance that. Cigarette smoking replaced with healthy eating. I don't know. But you get the idea. So you don't have to be stuck in a vicious downward spiral cycle. It can become a virtuous cycle, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. So what are 10 ways to break a vicious cycle? And I'm going to do 10 ways to break a vicious thought cycle, because our thoughts are what get us into, and our thoughts and then our beliefs, which are the things we think a lot, those are the things that get us into a vicious cycle or a virtuous cycle in the first place. So if you find yourself in a little slight downward spiral, or if you see yourself repeating things, or if you see, like mistakes, if you see that you're making the same type mistake over and over again, then you might want to try 1 or 10 or more of these ideas, these things. So what is one thing you can do? Number 1, you can stay in the present moment. Stay in your current time zone. Be present. Pay attention to what's really going on around you. Don't be living in the past, thinking about the past, or worrying and fretting about the future. Stay right now, focused on what's happening right now and how can I act based on that. Number 2, excuse me, actually relabel what's happening. So if you're feeling like you're in a downward spiral and you're always in a downward spiral and these things always happen to you, relabel that. Call it something different. If I slip, and I'm trying to think of a good example. I want a business example, but I'm not going to use one. Okay, so just relabel what's happening. So instead of thinking that it's the end of the world and that just because you slipped a little on your diet, dieting is another vicious cycle. Anybody who's yo-yo dieted will know exactly what I'm talking about. Dieting is a vicious cycle. If we diet and we deprive ourselves of things, we will lose weight short term, but we always slip back into our lifestyle or our habits in the long term, which usually, and I would say 90+% of the time, means regaining that weight. So relabel what's happening. Instead of beating ourselves up and say, I always do this, this always happens to me, say, I ate a piece of cheesecake today. It's not the end of the world. Number 3, fact check your thoughts. Again, that's kind of like pulling yourself in and relabeling what's happening. Excuse me. Like coughing. Fact check your thoughts. Is what you're thinking reality? Is it really what's going on, or are you getting carried away? I don't know about you, but sometimes I tend to get carried away and I make things up and I make things worse than they actually are in a given situation. Number 4, breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Take a few minutes just to relax and breathe and assess and calm yourself down to bring yourself into the present moment of the situation. Number 4 was breathe. 5 is called the rule of 3-3-3. Now, I've never heard of this. I just learned it yesterday, and I am going to try it out. What it is when you find yourself feeling like your mind's running 100 miles an hour and that your stuff's going on and you're not sure exactly how to handle it, do 3 things. Look around you and notice 3 things that are around you. Notice the cow timer, the soap framework, the cup of coffee, the pen, the clouds in the sky, whatever is appropriate for you. Just notice and see 3 things. Then listen for 3 things. Notice 3 sounds. I can hear the blower of the exhaust system. I can hear the humming of the lights. I can hear, I don't know, the beating of my heart, the shaking of the change, something. But listen for 3 sounds. So look and see and notice 3 things. Hear and listen for 3 things. And then move 3 parts of your body. Move your fingers, your ankle, your arm, your head, but move 3 parts of your body. And when you do that, when you notice 3 things, when you listen for 3 things and you move your body, all of that changes your state and it changes what you're focusing on. So I've never tried that, never heard of it, but I think it's a fun way to break a pattern or to just do your own pattern interrupt on yourself. Number 6, just do something, do anything. If you find yourself in a pattern of behavior, we all have patterns of behavior. Most of them are good, some of them are bad. If we want to change anything, any pattern in our life, we just have to do something. So just mix it up somehow. You know, maybe you get up 10 minutes earlier. Maybe you stay up 15 minutes later to do some positive visioning. Whatever works for you. You want to find a way to find other solutions that get you out of what feels like a vicious cycle. Number 7, stand up straight. A lot of these are physical state changing things, if you notice that. Number 8, avoid sugar, eat healthier. Number 9, ask for a second opinion. Ask for help. Ask for somebody who's maybe been through what you're going through and gotten out of it, what they did and how they did it. And then number 10, watch something funny. Watch something humorous. They say to do this a lot for health challenges too. If you're having a health challenge, because it breaks what you're thinking about. It breaks the pattern. It breaks the woe is me, victim mentality, feeling sorry for ourselves. Behavior that often leads to vicious cycles. People that have high self-esteem and high confidence and high communication skills and are continually improving and moving forward in their lives very rarely fall into vicious cycles. So I don't think it's a coincidence. So curious what you think of this particular idiom or expression, a vicious cycle. Have you found yourself in some sort of a vicious cycle before? What did you do to get out of it? Share that in the comments below so that all of us can learn from one another. It doesn't just happen in our business lives, although it does happen in our business lives, dealing with the same type of customer over and over again that you know isn't optimal for your business. Going down roads that are wrong for your business can lead to vicious cycles, lots of wasted resources. So how can you take this idiom, make it your own, and learn to take any vicious cycles that appear in your life and turn them into virtuous cycles. Share in the comments below. I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with another idiom that's challenge and change related to coincide with the Get Up and Go challenge this month. Any questions? Ask. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.